up. Right now he's robotoing Terry Funk in a bionic elbow. Sends him right out of the ring.
Ladies and gentlemen, beautiful Bobby Eaton. The lover boy, Dennis Condrey. The man with the most active tennis racket in the world, Mr. James E. Cornette.
And of course, this guy I've got introduced like this.
Oh, that is so funny, After. You're so...
Ladies and gentlemen, one of the great NWA World Heavyweight Champions and the hardcore icon, Mr. Terry Funk.
Whoa, all right. Y'all are trying to make the old man feel good. I know y'all saw me trying to get in this ring and stumbling around, and y'all were so nice because you didn't say a word about it. You just kept quiet.
Now, by the way, this seems to be like the perfect setting for a match for you here. No ropes.
No
Can we
ropes.
get an opponent for him? All right.
I've wrestled in a few rings with no ropes. Get wired, all right. Where is that moron out there?
Why don't you gentlemen sit down? Make yourselves comfortable. Jim Cornette, what are you?
Bill Apter.
What are you up to these days? Fans here were asking
About
me.
6 feet.
About 6 feet.
Yeah.
Same height. What are you up to these days? What are you doing? Get everybody caught up since you're not with Ohio Valley Wrestling at this point?
No, Bill, you're way lost.
That's
You're
it.
Actually, what I'm doing, I'm staying home a lot. I'm taking up framing as a hobby. It helps relax my nerves. But no, I own OVW. How can I not be with OVW? I'm not with anybody named McMahon.
So are you trying to say? Are you trying to say that we can't believe what we read on the
If I was
internet?
to bare my ass, they could kiss it. But no, it's different story.
All right, let's talk about your greatest Starrcade moments. What was yours?
Does anybody remember the scaffold thing? Okay, it wasn't a great moment, but it was an infamous moment. I defied the laws of gravity. I fell much faster than solid matter is supposed to fall. We proved that Big Bubba Rogers never should have been a center fielder for a baseball team because he missed me. And I spent some time in a hospital. That was my Starrcade memory. I'm the only person that ever main evented a Starrcade and almost lost money on a deal.
What about you, Bob?
Well, everybody thinks that the Starrcade was my favorite match, but it wasn't actually the worst match I've ever had, I think.
Why was it the worst match you ever had?
Sucks.
It sucks. We asked you your best Starrcade moment. You give us a moment that sucks. That's terrific.
True.
Well, those scaffold matches were kind of tough. It's not like you could take a bunch of backdrops and give hip tosses and throw drop kicks
That's
up there.
correct.
So it wasn't
But
exactly a
You
Midnight
never did
Express
that
kind of
anyway, really, did you?
No, actually, I
all right.
wouldn't do that under any circumstances
All right.
anyway, except if you were laying there. I would have come off the scaffold on you, Bill.
We could.
But your
You
head would have
people want to
blinded
see
me.
that? Right here in Spartanburg. Well, we sold about 8 tickets.
Spartanburg's not one of your better towns, Bill.
Absolutely not. Dennis, what about you? Favorite Starrcade moment?
I guess my favorite Starrcade moment would be when the scaffold match was over. I tell you, we had about 10 or 15 of those matches. They were hard and they were very dangerous matches.
Hey, you know what? Not only did we have a scaffold match, but the previous year at Starrcade 85, we actually wrestled a transvestite.
Oh, that's
You remember that? Ronnie Garvin, Miss Atlanta Lively?
Yes.
So somehow 2 consecutive years on the biggest show in the business, we managed to wrestle a transvestite and have a crummy match on the scaffold and nearly kill ourselves. And we still had a job after that.
What a great career. Terry.
Well, honestly and seriously, I was never in a Starrcade before.
So what was your What was your favorite Starrcade moment as a...
My favorite Starrcade moment? Well, how in the hell could I have a favorite Starrcade moment when
mu-
I wasn't in the Starrcade?
You must have seen when Ric Flair beat Harley Race for the title in a cage match at the first Starrcade with Jim Cornette, with Gene Kiniski. Gene Kiniski referee.
Hell, I was out in Texas milking cows.
Is that what you were doing?
I had a job to do.
Why were you not on a Starrcade? What happened?
Why was I not on a Starrcade?
Yeah.
Seriously, that was a long time ago, Sonny. I hadn't even started wrestling yet.
In the mid-'80s, you hadn't started yet. The memory is gone.
Oh, I am so funny, aren't I?
Jeff, let's get the first fan question.
Hey, I can tell you real quick. The worst
Hey, I got
Starrcade
something to say
moment.
too. You go ahead first, and I'll
The
go
worst
I'll
Starrcade
talk right
moment
after you do.
was when the morons moved Starrcade out of the Carolinas and sent it to Chicago instead of leaving it in the Carolinas where it belonged.
You know, I want to say one other thing too, you know, about these guys right here. And this is really important to me to say this and make this statement. Everybody says, you know, as hardcore as this crazy wild stuff. No, it's guys giving 100% in that ring to you people out there. And that's what the Starrcade was in these guys. These guys kept on they raised that ladder up as high as they could get it. And believe me, they took risks that nobody would take. I did see the Starrcade, and these guys busted their butts for you fans out there. And that's what's so great about this business and so wonderful about this business, because this business is Americana. And it's not Vince McMahon. The wrestling business as it was made up of guys and individuals that were extensions of their own personalities, like Jim Cornette and these two fellas with him. They were just extensions of their personalities. And by God, they were going to give you your money's worth every night of the week. And in 15 of those scaffold matches, these fools climbed up the top and busted their asses. And it's the truth, they did. But they did it for y'all. And that's what's so wonderful about it. They did it for y'all and nobody else.
Who came up with that idea, by the way, the scaffold match? That started down in Memphis, didn't it?
Actually, the guy who invented the scaffold match was Jerry Jarrett back in 1971. The first one ever was in Louisville, Kentucky. It was Jerry Jarrett and a guy named Don Green, and the scaffold at that time was only 2 feet wide, and it wasn't as tall. It was only like 12 feet off the
3
ring.
feet high if Jarrett was in it.
Yeah, 3 feet would have been it. And we had the first tag team scaffold match in Louisiana with the Rock and Roll Express, where the scaffold was widened to 3 or 4 feet, and it was also boosted about another 5 or 6 feet in the air. And then the one at Starrcade ended up, I believe it was 25 feet, 22 feet off the ring and 25 off the floor, and that's where we said, sayonara, we quit.
Are you surprised that WWE hasn't done that kind of match yet?
Kind of, sort of, but not really, because, you know, it was an intriguing match, but the risks outweighed the benefits, I think. And also it drew, people came to see it. But the problem is that you couldn't give them as good a match as you wanted to, even if it was a big crowd, because of the limitations. So it's a curiosity, it's intriguing, everybody remembers it, obviously, it's memorable, but it isn't exactly your greatest wrestling match, and it's not something that you necessarily want to risk people's lives, you know, that's what it's doing, basically one wrong move and you're cooked. So I think on pay-per-view, there's already been enough, you know, accidents and traumas and things without bringing scaffold matches back. But it'll rear its ugly head sooner or later. But we won't be in it, just so you know.
Okay, Jeff, let's take the first question. Gentleman right over
Jeff,
there.
thanks for dressing up for us tonight, babe. Appreciate it.
My question is to Terry. Out of all your hardcore matches, which were your 3 favorites?
You know, I don't, you know, gosh, I try to think about things that are the greatest and aren't, you know, but it's so funny is that it's hard to distinguish what is great and what isn't. The great matches, memorable matches, Onita in Japan. I mean, my gosh, that was a wild, insane, foolish thing. Cactus in Japan, Kawasaki Stadium, 42,000 people for that one. uh, Sabu in a barbed wire match. And I want to say something about that guy right there. There's a guy that never gets enough credit. There's a guy that has never been in a major promotion in the world. There is a guy that has probably created as many moves as these guys right here in the wrestling business. And guy's just got a lot of guts, and he's an unusual person. And I'd love to see him get a break someday in this world. And truthfully, I want to see all my fellow wrestlers become rich men and not have to worry about where their next buck's coming from or their next meal. And I want the guys all over the card, from the smallest guy, the preliminary guy, to the top guy, making a living in the business. And I think that's what this business used to be about, is we used to look after one another much more than they are looked after in this day and age. And I'd like to see those times come back again, although they never will.
What's your favorite Terry Funk hardcore match? Yeah, yours.
I would think it would have been the one where him and Cactus Jack got at it and he branded him with the iron.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Especially because it wasn't my butt.
All right, next question, Jeff.
Yeah, this is for the Midnight Express. How do y'all feel about doing the indie circuit, working the Rock and Roll Express again?
We love it. We're back. Took it back 20 years. We're having a great time. We're working about every weekend, Friday, Saturday, some Sundays. We started back when Bobby and I got back together. We said, well, we'll do it one weekend out of the month or one weekend out of the week, and now it's like 3 or 4 days out of the week. So, it's just crazy, man. We're having a great time. We love it.
Have you seen some of their matches recently? It's like time stood still, isn't it?
Yeah, they took it back. It was
Thank you very much.
Lenore.
Jim, you want to elaborate?
Well, I'll say something real quick, and I'm like a lot of you guys, I'm sure, out there. I've loved wrestling almost all my life, and right now I'm not too warm on professional wrestling because of what's actually being foisted off on us. But when we get the opportunity to come here and see these guys and be associated with the fans who remember back when the stuff looked like it was supposed to, it really re-energizes me a little bit. I only do one of these every once a month or once every couple of months. I really, just staying close to home, but I like taking a trip to come back and see Bobby and Dennis and Stan when he's with us and wrestle some of these guys that I haven't seen in a long time. It really takes me back, and I know you guys wouldn't be here unless it did the same thing for you.
If you had to, at this point, pick 2 guys, current guys, to make a new Midnight Express, who would you choose?
Hey, Terry Funk and Harley Race.
There you go.
If I can have Funk and Race, I'll take it. Otherwise, we broke the mold. There is going to be no more Midnight Express.
Next question, Jeff. Where are you?
Right here.
All right.
Terry Funk. In Ric Flair's book, he said you come over to his house, got drunk, got naked, and chased his dog around with a Bowie knife. Is that true?
Not this Terry Funk?
That Terry Funk.
And I still have the dog bites on my nose, too. Yeah, that sure is. That was quite a night there. And Rick wound up in the bathtub, and his wife wasn't too happy with him in the next morning. And somebody turned the water on him, and he just laid there all night long. But the good thing about it was he was still alive whenever he woke up, and crawled back out of there.
Terry, do you have another good Ric Flair story?
A good Ric Flair story?
No,
I got plenty of bad Ric Flair stories.
A bad one will suffice. You got a Ric Flair story you can share with us?
Oh gosh, I can't say too much about. I got to be careful. I can't call him a banana nose anymore. Dadgummit. Yeah, I'm just be very honest with you. As honest as I can be with you people right here. There's not a better in-ring performer than Ric Flair. He's a great in-ring performer. And he and I, yeah, we have our hard times and everything else, but got to recognize him for what he is. He's a great in-ring performer. And we'll just leave that at that. And that's a hell of a compliment coming from me, because I really mean it. He's a great in-ring performer. We have a few differences now and then, and we just still got them going on. So that's the way it is.
By the way, since we're here for a tribute to Starrcade, I want to recognize Mr. Jackie Crockett, one of the original founders of Starrcade, Mr. Jackie Crockett.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Fun Crockett. The Fun Crockett, ladies and gentlemen, right there.
Is that what you know him as?
He's the Fun Crockett.
Now, why do you say that?
Because he's the Fun Crockett.
Well,
what do you expect? A written, detailed book report?
Yes,
Billy's
of course,
the Fun Crockett.
Well, the other Crockett's not fun?
He's just more fun.
Okay.
He had a lot of fun, didn't he?
He had a lot of fun, especially in Spartanburg, didn't you? The social chairman.
All right. Next question, Jeff.
Where is he?
Right there.
What do you? This question's for everybody. What is y'all's thoughts on TNA? And do you think this ECW caused Vince McMahon bringing an attitude error? Well, we see the six-sided ring in WWE.
First of all, your thoughts on TNA?
Well, I tell you, actually, I know some of the guys wrestling in TNA. I'm a big fan of Christopher Daniels. He deserves it. I'm a big fan of Abyss. I'm a big fan of Samoa Joe. Worked with them in Ring of Honor. Obviously, I've known Jeff Jarrett for a long time. Rhino, I've known was a great talent, just waiting to be plucked since he was like 20 years old. So point being, there's a lot of great guys down there. I watched their 2-hour special, which was the first wrestling television I've watched in like 6 months, because I really just ain't interested in watching. I don't even watch my own show. But I sat down and watched it, and they have some good matches. I'm not entirely sold on the six-sided ring because I resist change. Change is bad to me. But it didn't bother me as bad as I thought it would. And the guys worked their butts off, and they have a good product. It looks good, and I hope they succeed, because there has to be some place for young guys to go to make a name. We do this because we love it now. We don't really do this, night in and night out like we did when we were young. We were really in the business. But some of these kids have never had the opportunity to go somewhere and know what it's like to wrestle it almost every night of the week, and to be on television, to be on pay-per-view. There's got to be some place besides the WWE in this business for these guys to go and learn how to do things properly, in my opinion. And a lot of times, great talent doesn't get the respect it deserves unless it's first made a name somewhere. So I think a lot of these guys are going to make names in TNA. It's going to increase their value. I think it's going to increase their experience. I think the fans have a choice, which they need. So to me, TNA is a plus all the way around.
Terry, what does TNA have to do to succeed?
With me?
Not with you. Your opinion on what they have to do to succeed.
Oh,
in today's
gosh,
wrestling environment.
that's a difficult question. What does wrestling have to do to succeed? That's the biggest question, and I'm serious about that. What do we need to change? And I'm very serious about that. Here we're sitting here, we're talking about everything else, but we're not talking about one of our big problems. We just lost a guy this week. I'm not saying we lost a guy anyway. I don't know what the particulars are on it, but I do know the particulars on this. And you people know this too, that we need to take a good look. We as individuals that are within the business and the other people that are promoting the business, we need to take a watch over what we are doing. I promise you that if you look at the wrestling business over the last 5 years, we take the independents, we take Vince, we take everything, and we look at it, and what do we got? Well, I'll tell you what, right up the street up here, you might have a crack house. And I'll bet you money that we've had more people die in the last 5 years than have died coming out of that crack house. Something is a little bit wrong. And we need to look at our business now, and I think some of the people that are running the business need to look at it and be concerned about it. I know that there's a kid up there by the name of Trevor Murdoch. that's up here right now that was one of Harley's boys. And you know that boy's never going to have a dirty nose. You know why he's not going to have a dirty nose? Not because Harley's over his shoulder watching him, but he's got a great amount of respect for Harley, and Harley trained him, and Harley put him into the business. And I'll tell you what, Trevor does not want to lose Harley's friendship. Now that sounds rather ridiculous, but we as wrestlers need to look at that, and we need to go ahead and look at our younger mentors, that not mentors, but younger guys that are starting in the business. And we need to be better trainers of them and direct them in the right line. And so do the promoters.
Yep.
Next question, please, Jeff.
I sort of have a comment for both of you. The first one was for Terry. And I just want to say back in 1989, you and Flair were some of the greatest matches I've ever seen.
It was, and I want to say something there too, and I mean this. It was some of the greatest matches I've had too. And now that's what I call a hardcore match, because they were very physical, and we were both giving 100%. So let's get hardcore right. Hardcore is not a bunch of idiots running around in the backyard jumping off of the top of the house, in my opinion. In my opinion, hardcore has more to it than that.
Well, when you attacked him, after he beat Steamboat, that just set up like a great angle. I mean, the whole year long, and then, with Muda and the Sting and everything. It was just some great matches all year, and I just wanted to tell you thank you for the entertainment back then.
Well, I really appreciate that. And that was, as I was getting flack at that time from certain individuals, and they were saying, Funk, you're too old, I probably was. But hell, I was having a lot of fun doing that back then,
Well, my question for the Midnight Express. My greatest angle with y'all is, and I remember this, it was on the Georgia Championship Wrestling, which on TBS. You was on the telephone, somebody called you, and it ended up being Paul E. Dangerously. And the original Midnight Express come in, and y'all had a big feud between Bobby and Stan and Dennis. It was a great angle there, great feud, and I just wanted to tell you, I thought that, like y'all comment on that maybe.
Well, I'll start out. That actually was one of the favorite things that I ever did, and I think the favorite thing of one of all of us, and it never drew 15 cents in Chinese money. Because as soon as we did that on television, and then by the time they booked the match in the house shows, they had fired Dusty, and they changed bookers, and Jimmy Crockett was trying to do something interim until they could get somebody else in. They just hired Jim Hurd. The whole thing went to hell. So we do this great deal on television, and we come to the show, and we're booked the second match. And on the card, they say, 20-minute draw. What? All these people are thinking we're going to kill each other. We've bled on television. We've whacked each other with chairs and phones and objects. I've tried to throttle Paul E. Too bad I didn't succeed. Choke the life out of him. And we come to the matches, to the house show, and it's the second match on the card. It's a 20-minute draw, and then it wasn't even brought back. And so it was a great start, and it just petered out from there because they didn't do anything with it. It was not booked. It was not brought back. It wasn't treated right, and but we got great tape off of it.
Yeah, I'd like to say one other thing too. Is but I mean, just what you're saying right there is the most important thing in the business is what's wrong with it. What is wrong with this? What is wrong with that? One thing that's wrong with it is that years ago we had very creative minds that knew wrestling like the back of their hand. I'm talking about Eddie Graham. I'm talking about the people that Crockett had working for him. Man, they had great storylines. And in this day and age, they kind of forget about the storylines. I don't know where the hell they're going. I don't.
Well, you know what it is?
Where are you going?
The problem is there are too many storylines because they've overstoried everything, and you can't keep track of from one week to the next. That's why you don't know what But at that period of time in the wrestling business, the personalities were what was more important. And if the people realize that Terry Funk and Dennis Condrey are mad at each other, and on television they're going to call each other and their relatives everything in the world, and they're going to fight, that's all I needed to know. I know what Terry did to Dennis. I know what Dennis says he's going to do to Terry. I want to go see a match. I don't want to go and watch a soap opera of a bunch of, if you got cable and you see the divas, we know they're not going to be naked. It's basic cable, right? Okay. We know they ain't going to be naked. We can turn over to Showtime and see all that stuff. They can't wrestle. What the heck? How many bra and panties matches, how many lingerie tub of goo matches can you see?
All right, I'm going to ask you two questions. I'm going to ask you two questions. And this is just going to prove about a creative mind. See, I've got a very creative mind. I want you people to tell me, which would you rather see in one of those like naked matches or something like that? Would you rather see the Divas naked, or would you rather see Jim Cornette naked? Yeah,
show of
they
hands
just
for the
can't see
Divas.
that.
Hey,
they think Divas draw, and I know Jim Cornette draws money.
The last time I was in a ring with you, I almost was naked. You ripped my pants off.
I'm thinking about doing it again. You know, you do have a very, very shiny hiney.
But I'll tell you, and I'm not knocking the Divas because they had one that could wrestle her ass off, Ivory, and they fired her in her infinite wisdom. But the thing is, there's too many storylines that don't mean anything, and nobody wants to see this. You don't believe it. They're the worst criminals in the world when there's a camera in the locker room while somebody's committing grand theft or some kind of treason or some kind of sabotage, and they're on live national television. When's the last time you robbed a bank and you called Channel 7 News to come down and shoot it? It's ridiculous. All I want to know is Terry Funk and Dennis Condrey, and they're going to fight.
Simpler than that, when was the last time that you wanted to see a championship match? It's that simple.
Well, the title changes hands 3 times a week, so if we miss this one, we'll see it Tuesday.
That's right.
That's the problem.
So here's the scenario now, okay? We're going to make you Vince for a day. You're not, wait. No, here's the question. Here's the question. You're sitting behind the desk.
Hold on a second. Wait a minute. How do you mean that? Do I get his money or do I have to sleep with his wife?
Door number 1, sleep with the wife. Door. All right, so you're behind the desk. You control that company for one day. What's the first thing you change?
The entire employment roster. I'd fire everybody and start over again.
Who?
No, I mean, come on, you guys are fans. You want to see wrestlers wrestle matches that you want to see because you're into the particular participants, or you understand what they're fighting for, whether it's a championship or it's a grudge, and you want to get your money's worth, right? Is it simple? Golly, why can't people figure this out? We want to see the wrestlers that we like. We want to see them fight each other. We want to see a good match. We want to get our money's worth. That's all. It's not hard. You don't have to see a concrete truck plow a Greyhound bus full of paraplegic nuns under the ground. It's
There was
simple.
a good angle, the paraplegic nuts. Anyone here like today's WWE product? Just raise your hand. Curious. Okay.
Yeah.
2. Okay. Next.
Boy, that's a very small smattering
Yeah,
of
really.
support.
That's scary right there.
And how many of you like TNA? Okay. Next question, Jeff. Where are you? Right there.
Yeah. I just want to thank each and every one of y'all for all you've done to your bodies. It's still real to me, damn it. I mean,
Take it easy, man.
Thank y'all guys. Y'all are awesome. Thank you so much, Mr. Funk, for saying what needed to be said. I don't want to see another one of these.
Well, thank you very much, too. I really mean that sincerely.
And, sir, I'd just like to hear each of your recollections of a true legend of business, Captain Redneck Dick Murdoch. Please.
Oh, I can start that with 100 stories right there with Captain Redneck. You know, Captain Redneck was the greatest, I'm telling you. He was consistent, consistently an idiot, and that's what we all loved about him. I loved him. Here's one of the things that he would do. Captain Redneck would go pick up Bobby Eaton. in his pickup truck, drive Bobby Eaton around in his pickup truck. This is just an example, but it's so true. He said, "Hey, Bobby, say, bro, me and you, we're the only ones with any sense. Me and you, the only ones got any brains in the whole damn world. Me and you, Bobby Eaton, it's me and you. We're against the world." And then he'd go ahead and drop Bobby Eaton off. He'd come up and pick up me. Say, "Hey, Terry, it's me and you, Terry, me and you, bro. We're the only ones that got any sense. Whoever was with Dick Murdoch had sense. Whoever wasn't was a dumb son of a gun." And that's the truth about Dick, you know. Dadgum, as I remember one time, a long time ago, we were wrestling in Abilene, Texas. Wrestling was a lot different then. I mean, you didn't, you know, we believed in suspending disbelief. We believed in kayfabing. We believed in not smartening people up. So we were in Abilene and we were headed to Odessa. But we finished up the matches on Monday night for a promoter called Don Slatton. And Dick Murdoch and I were not in the ring, but Dick was refereeing. And the referees weren't even allowed to ride with other wrestlers back in. So Dick was there, and we decided that Dick was going to ride with me. So I says, "Dick, we can't let these fans see you, so you get in the truck, you get in the trunk of my car." So I opened up the trunk, you know, and Dick got in the trunk of the car, and he had a case of beer, too. I said, "I'll let you out just on the outskirts of town." Well, 180 miles later, he is still banging on the inside of that trunk. And I locked him in there. But he quieted down a bit because he had that case of beer there with him. But that's the truth. I took him all the way from Abilene to Odessa in the trunk of the car. He is just a great character, a person I love, and a person that I think needs to be in anybody's Hall of Fame. I think Cornette and these guys will agree. And he was just the biggest fool in the world. He loved the Texas Longhorns, too. Boy, they'd bet anything on Texas, wouldn't he? Oh, man. I'll never forget, he had these Halloween parties, you know. He had them every Halloween, and my wife and I would go to them. And one night I went there, and he had this little bar, you know, it's on the inside of his house. He had a bar, and I was sitting down at the bar with about 3 other people, and one of them was his brother-in-law. God only knows why, but Dick went ahead and he jumped right over the top of the bar there and just right out of the clear blue and punched his brother-in-law in the nose and broke his nose and knocked him off the bar stool, and then walked around back there and started serving beer again. I don't know what in the hell he did it for, and neither does his brother-in-law. His brother-in-law got back up there and sat back down with a big fat nose, you know. But this kind of things Dick Murdoch did. You want me to go on?
Dennis, you have a Dick Murdoch story?
Yeah, I do. I actually had the pleasure of working Dick in Denver. I used to run towns in Denver, Colorado. And I used to bring Dick up from Amarillo. And him and I would work the main events while my guys I was training worked underneath. And I used to bring him in quite regularly. And him and I drew some good houses in Denver. And I think our last match in Denver, I think a couple of weeks later, he passed away. But he was a great guy. I really loved Dick Murdoch. I just, you know, he got mad at me that night during the match because there was probably 700-800 people there. And we went outside the ring, and Dick is hollering for me to slam him on the concrete floor, and I won't do it. And I said, "Dick, there ain't no people here for that. Slam me, kid." He always called me kid. I said, "No, Dick, I ain't gonna do it." He said, "You're gonna slam me, or I'm gonna slam you." So he got slammed pretty quick. But he's a great guy. I love Dick Murdoch.
Jim Cornette.
Well, I got a chance to manage Dick back in '87, '88 for Crockett Promotions here, and 6-mans with the Midnight Express, and also he came to work for me in Smoky Mountain Wrestling in Knoxville. And I love Dick Murdoch. He was a great wrestler. He could get a great 20-minute match out of Nikita Koloff. That's how good of a great wrestler Dick Murdoch was.
That's pretty good.
And in addition to that, He sent me an interview one time to play on Smoky Mountain Television. He was coming in to wrestle Bullet Bob Armstrong. And he sent the interview and said, "You're going to love it." I put it in a VCR and turned it on. He's sitting outside at his place when he was living over in New Mexico, sitting out on his porch with no shirt on, cutting the interview on his home camcorder. The problem was it was January and it was snowing. There was like 3 feet of snow on the ground. It was coming down. He's standing out there with no shirt on and a pair of shorts doing the interview. And
I got to tell one more Dick Murdoch story. Y'all are going to love this one because this is the classic of all classics. Now, Dick Murdoch's down in WCW making $90,000 or $100,000 a year, and he'd go hunting about 9 or 10 months a year, and Jim Herd allowed that the whole time. Murdoch was just brutal on him. He'd go take vacations all the time, and they still paid him $100,000. Huh?
He got a job. Listen, Dick Murdoch got a job. All he had to do was drink beer and talk to people. He was a Coors PR guy.
Sure was.
I said, "How the heck did you do that, Dickie?" So then he goes to the WWF, and they bring him up for every television. And finally, about the third or fourth time, I said, "Dick, what are you doing?" He said, "I don't know." He said, "They just bring me to television. They're paying me. Vince said they're going to do something with me." He did about eight or 10 TVs. They didn't do anything with him. And then he went to WCW. They signed him up. He went hunting all the time.
Yeah, and I got to finish that story because he lost that job.
How?
Well, he went ahead.
He didn't drink enough beer.
I know
He didn't
that you'll
talk to enough
remember
people.
this. I'll bet you money you remember this. Dick Murdoch goes ahead as I'm sitting in there because I was one of the bookers at that time. Flair was in there. Jim Herd was in there. I don't think you were in there. I don't know. But you was gone? Yeah, so Dick Murdoch comes out of the ring, just finished wrestling, walks by the dressing room door. Do you remember this story? Walks by there. Jim Herd is in there talking about the business, saying, "I can't understand why we're not doing this or we're not doing that, and the business isn't growing like it should be." And here comes Dick walking by the dressing room door. He says, "Hey, Dick, come in here." That's Jim Herd, the big boss man. So he walks in the dressing room, Dick does, and Jim says, "What do you think's wrong with our business?" And Dick says, "Why, you dumb son of a bitch." That's as true as I can get it. And Dick didn't have a job anymore either. And that's the truth.
But universally, I think it's pretty well acknowledged that Dick Murdoch was not only a great wrestler, but he's a funny son of a gun, too.
Bobby, you have a Dick Murdoch story?
Yeah, I got one good one I like to say. Talking about Dick Murdoch, he was a great wrestler. He was a big guy, And when I found out he could give me a head, I could take a head scissors from him. Right. So one night he gave me a bill. He could come to head scissors me. He got up so high he went completely over the top rope, and we just busted out laughing. It's funny.
Bobby's standing there waiting for him. All of a sudden he went.
He was a great character. Thank you. That was a great question. Thank you very much. Next question. Right here.
I got a question for all y'all. If y'all could have a match in the past that y'all didn't have or in the future with anybody, who would it be and why?
Could you just say that again nice and slowly, please?
Okay, for the Midnight Express and Terry Funk, if y'all could have a match that y'all haven't had in the past with somebody or in the future now, who would it be and why?
So like a current dream match you're talking about? Okay. Terry, you want to start that off?
Yeah. As a dream match that I could have now, yeah, I'd like to have a dream match with Eddie Guerrero. That'd be great if we could have him back. It'd be wonderful to have him back. He's a great piece of talent. A dream match, yeah, I'd love to work with Kurt Angle. I would. I'd like to just see how he was in the ring. Probably one of the few guys that I haven't worked with in my entire lifetime. So that's.
What about you, Dennis?
I would like to have a match. I guess probably if you want to call it a dream match, probably the Midnight Rockers, if they could get back together. I would really enjoy that, I believe. Marty Jannetty and Shawn Michaels.
Actually, I mean, you could take this, Midnight Express against the Fabulous Kangaroos would be great.
Oh,
if you could, when you're dreaming, you can dream anything. Stevens and Patterson, anything like that. But within the realm of realism, I think the only two teams during the 80s that one version or the other of the Midnight Express didn't face, because, we had the Rock and Roll Express, the Fantastics, the Southern Boys, Brad Pillman and Tom Zink, the Road Warriors, Tully and Arn, every great team of the 80s, the Freebirds, wrestled them a couple times. I think probably the Rockers, Michaels and Jannetty, and the Hart Foundation, Bret Hart and Jim Neidhart, would be the two teams of our era that we never had a chance to wrestle because we were always, affiliated with different promotions. So I think something that would be credible, but also something that really never had a chance to happen, would be the Hart Foundation or the Rockers.
You know who I'd like to see the Midnight Express against?
Who?
The fabulous Moolah and Mae Young.
Oh!
I tell you, they might be in for a whipping that night.
Hey,
we wouldn't have a chance.
Make it a 6-person and put Darlin Dagmar or Diamond Lil on the other,
What would these stipulations be in that match?
I'm not going to get into that,
Right. Bobby, what about you?
I know it sounds crazy, but I agree with Terry. I think we can draw a house.
Hey, draw a sellout, I'm telling you.
I think we could draw a house with him.
I'd pay for it.
How about Lord Littlebrook and somebody?
Cowboy Lang.
Skylar Low.
I think a lot of people would pay for it not to happen. We might could make more money just by threatening that match than by actually delivering it.
Who is your dream match to see Midnight Express and Terry Funk against? Don't sink in your chair. You got to come up with an answer now. British Bulldogs.
Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot about the Bulldogs. I'm sorry. Thank you.
That would have been tremendous.
Wow. The Hardy Boys or the Dudleys.
Okay. The Dudleys.
Well, I'll tell you what, those Bulldogs, that's a pretty good suggestion
Dudleys
right
too
there.
would have been.
Forgot about the Bulldogs.
Yeah, there's another one that I'd like to see in the dream match is I just loved it.
Okay. Next question, Jeff. This young lady over here.
This question's for Terry. What is your memories of Gordon Soley?
Gordon Soley memories.
That's a pretty doggone good question there. I'll tell you. My memories of Gordon Soley are that, and this is going to really sound funny, is he was the world's, I consider him one of the greatest announcers that there's ever been. In wrestling, there is just some things about him. And Gordon had such a way about him, and also as Gordon was a character too. And Eddie Graham was responsible though for Gordon being capable of doing the announcing like he did, because he was an extension of Eddie Graham at that time. But he became the greatest announcer ever, or one of the greatest. Lance Russell was also a great announcer, two of the great announcers in the business. But old Gordon, as I loved him too, because old Gordon, he loved to go ahead and have a drink. Not now and then, but quite often.
Or a drink or 10. Gordon Soley brought a sense of credibility and respect to the genius that these people brought to the ring. Nobody has ever done it better. Okay, next question, please. Yes, sir.
This question is for Bobby Eaton. I've watched you with Midnight Express. I watched you individual. I thought you was one of the greatest high flyers of all time. What was your favorite opponent in a tag team and individual?
Favorite tag team, I guess, had to be the Rock and Roll Express. Then single matches, I can Arn Anderson probably.
The Enforcer. Who was that? Okay, I'm just curious. Next question, Jeff. Right here, on the aisle.
Okay, guys. I've got a couple of questions. First of all, for Terry, I saw a tape many years ago, something you did in the 80s with Stan Hansen, where you guys were wrestling in a campground and wound up in a lake doing some things.
That was a Skalky River up in Philadelphia, and God, it stank too. And I really mean that. That was a stinking river up there. Wound up in that thing, and it's a wonder I didn't get some kind of horrid disease, I'm serious about that, yeah. And it was just booked up there. And what was the fella's name up there? No, it wasn't Joel. No, Corluzzo, Dennis. It was Dennis Corluzzo that booked that match up there, you know. Dennis Corluzzo is quite a character in this business.
Go ahead.
My second question for Terry, do you have a real appreciation for your role in wrestling history from a standpoint of, I can't remember any other performer who ever rose to the level you did to be a traditional world heavyweight champion back in the old days when that really meant something, and then totally reform your entire career in the middle of it and change your entire ring style, persona, and everything in a way. No other performer I can think of can lay claim to something like that. So how do you feel about that?
Well, I don't, I look at myself as differently than a lot of people. Maybe they look at me, I don't know. I just look at myself as a guy trying to make a buck. And whenever you're trying to make the buck, you want to do the best you can at it. And through the years, I've tried to never live in the past nor live in the future. I try to go to the future a little bit at times, but really, as you want to say, present in the world of wrestling. And that's what you have to do, and that's what I've tried to do, and been somewhat successful. And I really don't like people saying that, boy, you're the big wheel and successful. I don't ever consider myself as that way. I'm just a guy passing through as everybody else and hoping to entertain you people a little bit.
I agree with you. He's one of the few wrestlers in history who was able to do what he did back then and then completely adapt to how the wrestling business changed. So you're amazing, Terry Funk. You're amazing. Next question, please. Yes, sir. You have one more question?
Real quick, and I'll give this mic up. Just for Mr. Cornette, how hot a town is Tony Hunter going to find Johnson City, Tennessee to be when he gets there as a wrestling town? And since you guys are going to be there in December, how hot a town is Pikeville, Kentucky as a wrestling town?
Both from the old Smoky Mountain days, I can tell you Johnson City is a tremendous town for wrestling, but I have never seen anything like the response of the people in Pikeville, Kentucky. It's just, it was a really hot place. We used to go there for the Bluegrass Brawl, first Friday of every April, sell the place out, and the people were just really dedicated wrestling fans. It is tremendous. Both those places, tremendous for wrestling. I'm looking forward to seeing them myself.
Okay. Next question, Jeff.
All right, this one's for the original Louisville Slugger himself, Mr. James E. Cornette.
Thank you for that big intro. Don't quit your day job.
As we all know, in the past 10 or 15 years, there's been more than plenty less than stellar moments brought to you by the World Wrestling Federation. One of those was when Bob Holly and Bart Gunn were brought in to form the new Midnight Express. Who came up with this and why?
Well, I cannot blame the cretinous humanoid completely, because I wasn't in the room, but I suspect it was Vince Russo. But the reason I know this is because I was living in Stamford at the time. I was working in the office, and Vince McMahon called me himself, asking me about, because, see, the thing I was telling Dennis this, when I was managing Yokozuna, the WWF champion, or managing Bulldog and Owen, the WWF tag team champions, or, on pay-per-view, whatever, when I would be in a convenience store or any place where somebody would recognize me and Vince McMahon would be around, people would say, hey, where's the Midnight Express? Hey, where's the Midnight? Nothing about his champion or his tag team champions or Vader or anything I was doing then. It was always about the Midnight Express. And Vince couldn't figure this out because he never watched any other wrestling. Believe it or not, folks, Vince McMahon had never seen Jim Crockett Promotions, never seen the NWA, never watched WCW, never saw ECW. People can say I'm lying, but I'm not. I've stood there and seen not only him tell me he didn't watch it, but his totally mystified look when he would try to figure out who the Rock and Roll Express was, for God's sake. But the point is, he heard this. So anyway, I get a call. Bob Holly and Bart Gunn were sitting around. They weren't doing anything with them. They didn't have a spot. They were on contract. They were in danger of getting cut. They said, what about a new Midnight Express? Well, it thrilled me about as much as seeing Oprah Winfrey in a string bikini. But at the same time, I didn't want these guys to get fired. I wanted them to get a chance. It was they were kind of leaving it up to me. Can you manage them, get them over, blah, blah, blah. So I called Bobby, because you remember. I didn't have Dennis's number at the time. Nobody else did either. And of course, Bobby said, no, do whatever. I knew it wasn't going to work. And I knew it was going to be the drizzling shits, to be quite honest with you. Because I'm not knocking Bart Gunn or Bob Holly, but those two guys can't replace either set of the Midnight Express.
Nobody can.
But, at that point, if it meant, trying to help these guys just get some kind of spot, okay, I said, okay, I'll do it. And Bobby said he didn't mind, and so we tried it, and of course, once that it got started, nobody had thought it through other than the original idea. Oh, hey, let's have a new Midnight Express. Well, what do we do with it from there? So then when we were the first match one night, losing to somebody that I don't even think I'd ever heard of, that had just come to the WWF, and Bart Gunn and Bob Holly were supposed to fight each other in the Brawl for All. I said, okay, the partners are fighting each other. We're losing the first match, so I went to Jim Ross and I said, I would like to hereby once again turn in my resignation as a wrestling manager, because I'd rather just go back and work in the office than be doing this stuff, because it's doing the Midnight Express name no good and it's getting some on me. He said, I understand what you mean, and we just dropped it right there. But at least they didn't get fired.
Terry
Boy, a lot of Bart Gunn and Bob Holly fans here. Like you want to set fire to them and throw them in a vat of boiling oil or something.
Terry Funk, is there anything left in the wrestling business that you have not accomplished that you still want to do?
I don't know about things I want to accomplish. Hell, I'm too old to accomplish much anymore, what am I going to accomplish, just pretty doggone old, as I tell people a lot of times that I go ahead and go out in my backyard and bury wrestling, and I do, and I go back out there and dig it back up, and then I bury it again, and I dig it back up and bury it again, and hell, I can't decide anymore if it's buried or dug up. So that's kind of a position I'm in right now, is dadgummit, I'd sure like to be out of the business, but then I get out of it, and dadgummit, I'd sure like to be in it, and I'm just one of those, and then some days I can't remember if I was in it or out of it.
So why do you
That's because of my age, see? You get that old. You can't remember what you're talking about anyhow.
So what keeps you going? Why do you keep doing it?
What keeps me going?
Yeah. Why do you keep doing
well,
it?
Hell, the same thing that keeps all of these people going. Bills. You got to pay the damn thing. Hey, I haven't been making that $1 million payoffs and stuff like that, I was very honest with the people. Whenever they said, why did you go up there and stay in do the ECW show for Shane Douglas instead of the ECW show for Vince McMahon? I said, well, I had two offers. I was very honest. I said, I had one offer from Vince McMahon for $7,500. It's not $1 million payoff or anything like that, but he offered me $7,500 to go up there and do the one with him, and Shane went ahead and Douglas went ahead and he offered me $2,500, and I took the $2,500. And the reason I took it was because, dadgummit, I wanted to be with the real deal. And I felt like Vince's ECW is just an extension of himself, just like Cornette and the Midnight Express. Whenever he developed that, it was just an extension of his thoughts, and that's all it was going to be. So I took less money, and now I'm kicking myself in the ass because I did. I wish I would have taken the $7,500. And I don't hold it against anybody, and I really don't mean that, but I don't hold it against any one of those guys that went up there and got a payoff for the night that needed some money, because that's what they should have done exactly, is gone up there for Vince like they did.
Next question, Jeff.
This is for all of you. What's your favorite memories of Chief Wahoo McDaniel?
Wahoo story. Wahoo McDaniel stories.
God, I got a couple of them about Wahoo. One time he shot Slater in the leg. Another great Chief Wahoo McDaniel story was I just started wrestling. And we came out of the Ector Coliseum, which is Odessa, Texas, Wahoo's hometown. And Wahoo is always gun crazy. Don't ask me why, but he was gun nuts. He was driving around in a Cadillac with the top down. And I was riding over there on the one side. He was driving. All of a sudden, this bunch of young people, a bunch of young goofs or whatever, drove up alongside of him and started honking their horn. And, hey, you big fat Indian, this and that, Wahoo just reached underneath his seat and stood up in that Cadillac and shot 3 holes in the trunk of their car. And they drove off fast as hell. And that's the last one was ever seen of them. And it's true. And I said, man, this is a crazy Indian. And he sure enough was. Another Wahoo story is that, God, he loved the underneath guy. I seen him go in there and talk to the promoter. Underneath guys they wouldn't take care of, certain promoters would. And Wahoo would go in there and fight for him. Hey, by God, you give that guy more money. He needs more money. Wasn't talking for himself, was talking for his fellow wrestlers. And he loved his fellow wrestlers, and probably cut himself out of some money. And I'll tell you one thing, Joe Namath knocked him. Said he wasn't a very good football player. But I'll tell you what, Joe Namath knocked him after Wahoo McDaniels was dead. He was scared to death to knock him before he was dead. And that's a pretty crappy way to do things. I love the guy, and he's a great football player on top of that.
Well, I'll tell you, just real quick, we're talking about Odessa. We were in Midland, Odessa, which is where Wahoo went to high school. And we were there one night, and some fan brought a newspaper, and Wahoo showed it to us. The headline front page of the newspaper from 1950-something is McDaniel scores 6 touchdowns to lead team to victory, right? It's at the bottom of the page. Down the bottom of the page is that big. Appearing tonight at the Boom Boom Room, so-and-so, opening act, Elvis Presley. Wahoo said, see, I've been on top longer than Elvis.
That's right.
Wahoo also had the longest, I don't know if any of y'all are football fans or not, but Wahoo has and still has the longest punt ever on record. 93 yards with the roll and everything. Longest punt ever.
Hey, what was it like, guys? Because I know Wahoo, when he was a heel and the fans would have a problem with him, Wahoo's the only guy I've ever seen that would use a chop in a street fight. What was it like? And the fans would go down. They would sell. What was it like getting chopped by Wahoo McDaniel?
Oh, God awful, but I got one more story to tell about Wahoo McDaniels. I was down there in Dallas, Texas. Now, this is better yet. I was down there in Dallas, Texas. Fritz is looking for Wahoo. He was a promoter down there. Here it goes, 7:30, 8 o'clock, 8:30. No Wahoo. Where in the hell is he? Finally, Wahoo walks in through the door. And Fritz says, Wahoo, where have you been? He is very critical of him at that time. You're late, Wahoo. He says, boy, he says, I was out playing golf with Lee Trevino. He says, man, and Fritz says, well, he said, we was playing for $100 a hole. And he says, well, did you win? He says, Wahoo says, no, but he says, I lost $3,000, but I damn near beat him. Old Lee was hustling him.
I used to leave my camera bag when I was shooting for the magazines in the dressing room, typically during the matches, so I figured they would be safe. And there was one time we were in Charlotte. I came back, and I'm looking for my camera bag, and Wahoo's the only person in the dressing room there. And I'm going like, I'm sweating. Did you see my camera bag? There's $2,000 worth of camera equipment in there. And he said, nope, I didn't see it. Go back to the hotel. I called the publisher. The cameras are gone. Lost them. Threatened to fire me. Next town we go to is Wahoo in the dressing room. It's my camera bag right next to Wahoo. There's a joke he played on me in almost every town where my partner, Craig Peters at that time, would say, where are the cameras? When we got back to the hotel, I said, it'll show up in the next town. Wahoo's got it. Did that almost every time. Every time. Next question, please.
My question is for all y'all. How do y'all feel about back in the day, wrestlers was not doing this, talking about the business? Now is so open. How do y'all feel about that?
Yeah, does it bother you when a fan now comes over and says, hey, I'm a mark? And they use the inside lingo that we all held so sacred.
Okay, yeah, nobody wants to jump in on this one. Obviously we would be complete morons if we did not speak to you in this manner right now, and we're not going to do that. And speaking of complete morons, Sal Correnti.
Ladies and gentlemen, the creator of Castle reunion, Sal Carenti.
You can always hit a cue,
The
Sal.
Big Cheese.
Tepid response, but no. If we didn't talk to you this way, we'd be, who are we fooling? But the thing is, I think a lot of it. There's so much knowledge now. It's taken the fun out of it. It's taken. I mean, maybe for you guys, because you admire what these guys do in the ring, as well as being wrestling fans, just want to see a good match, but you admire the art form that they perform. It may be different, but for the average person, I think the more knowledge you have of something, the way it works, the intricate backstage manipulations, politics, whatever, it takes the fun out. Because I remember when I would go to the matches when I was a kid, I wouldn't know who was going to win. So-and-so is going to go to New York. So-and-so is going to go work for this other promoter. So-and-so's mad at this guy. I didn't know any of that stuff. I saw on television, this guy's mad at that guy, and boy, I want to see what happens. It was more fun. It's not that we ever tried to deceive you in a manner that was, criminal, because if that's the case, and so did John Wayne when he made all those Western movies, because he didn't really shoot all those Indians either. But it was entertaining to watch him do it. When you buy a ticket to see a wrestling match, hopefully you'll get your money's worth with what happens in the ring. How we talk you into the building in the old days, I don't think was deceit as much as entertainment, but we didn't have to tell you that we were entertaining you. You were already entertained. Point is, to me, too much information sometimes takes the fun out of things. That's the way I feel. What do you think, Terry? Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Well, I've got a theory on this. I think it has started. The theory started 80, 100 years ago, and what that is we started out what was considered, it was pure wrestling, and it was here in America, and it was they had true wrestling, and then through a process of time, it evolved, and it evolved to more and more because money was involved, and what turned the turnstile made us go further and further towards entertainment. And I think that we have just about, and what it is, it's like a big circle, a huge circle. And I think that we have just about completed that circle, but it took us approximately maybe 80, 100 years to make that circle. And now you've got a group like the shoot fighting group and everything else. They started as pure. They're making a circle, but making it much faster than we are and much smaller than we are. And I truthfully believe that. And I think we will come back and go back to the basics and go back to the pureness and the rawness of it, and then we'll keep on expanding back again. And that's just a theory of mine.
How many times have y'all heard people say, they're wrestling, it's all fake, I know how they do it, but then they'd see one match, they go, wait a minute, now say what you want to, but those guys are mad. Let me say, and people, it's human nature. You want to believe stuff. You want to think there's something more than meets the eye. You don't want to know everything there is to know because that takes the fun out of finding it out, right? You want to figure this stuff out, but you don't know for sure. I know David Copperfield didn't make the Statue of Liberty disappear, but I'm not exactly sure how he did it, so I'm going to go back and see him do it again. But if I get the book, if I get the set list and the stage personnel's drawings of how exactly he does it, that's how he does it. Okay. Then it's not that interesting anymore. So I think a lot of times wrestling is changing, but now it's more important than ever before that you do something different in this business to get noticed, because everybody thinks they've seen everything, even if they haven't. They think they have. So, it's, and the internet, Jiminy Pete, how much can you learn about something? It's all out there if you want to spend your entire life reading it. But I think a little mystery to some things would be better for everybody concerned, because it would help us entertain you and help you be entertained.
Let me give you an example of a mystery right quick. Cornette, you have said a bunch of real stupid things. You really have. You said a bunch of stupid crap today. Doesn't make a bit of goddamn sense. Now, am I shooting or working? You understand what I'm saying there? That's how simple it is. That's how simple and wonderful it is.
And if I were to say to you that, Terry, to be honest, I respect you, especially at your advanced age. You Your social security number is 1. The varicose veins on the back of your legs look like a road map of Amarillo. And I wouldn't dream of knocking you because I know that if you were to get mad and get hot under the collar, that you'd miss your Geritol for today. You wouldn't be regular and you're liable to poop in your pants.
See there? He had to go there.
You son of a bitch.
You broke down Texas egg sucking dog.
Now this is real.
I didn't want a word battle with this asshole. But he's liable to get one any minute.
Now, if he stands up, I'm leaving. But the point is, all of a sudden, everybody's butthole started puckering up just a little bit, right?
Mine was.
I'll tell you what, you didn't make my butthole pucker there. That'd be hard for you to do.
How many of you can still go to the matches and sit there and watch it and enjoy it and you don't think whether it's real or not? How many? Okay, so you guys are doing a great job. That's all. Next, Jeff, next question. Is someone else, let's give it to someone also who hasn't asked a question. That gentleman over there, please. Sir, scream out your question there. What's that?
Mine's for Jim Cornette. Considering all the autobiographies we got coming out nowadays, if you were to write yours and it was to make into a movie, who would you like to play you? Among the choices are Jim Carrey, Mike Myers, and Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Huh?
Wait a minute, what about Sylvester Stallone, Arnold Schwarzenegger? Yeah, The Rock. Finally, Jim Cornette has come back to Spartanburg.
You know who I would like to have play me in a movie? Gosh darn. No, who would I really like to have play me? Walter Matthau. I just loved him.
You left out
I loved him. He was the greatest.
You left out Woody Allen for Jim Cornette. No? Okay.
No, wait a minute. Woody Allen will be starring in the Bill Apter story.
All right, here we go.
How's Soon Yi, by the way?
What's that?
Soon Yi?
Soon Yi.
Soon Yi?
No, I don't sue anybody.
Who would play Bill Apter? It'd be that, those two magpies? What were they?
Heckle and Jekyll.
Heckle or Jekyll. Heckle or Jekyll would get his role.
He walked around. I was on a tour in Japan with him probably 20 years ago. He walks around to the Japanese reporters and he says to me,
he looks just like Heckle.
He says to me, you know those two magpies,
he looks like
Heckle and Jekyll?
Apter
looks like Heckle.
Looks like Heckle, doesn't he? Heckle. Heckle.
I thought you forgot about that. Next question, please.
Well,
all the way over there, Jeff.
Wait a second. I've got a special announcement to make.
Yes.
There's somebody here that's got a bone to pick with all of you.
Uh-oh.
And I think they're going to send him out right now.
Oh,
ladies and gentlemen, Mick Foley.
Whoa! Mick Foley! Mick Foley, ladies and gentlemen. Just back from a successful tour of the United Kingdom. That's on my foot, Bob. Move it. Thank you. Was that real? Welcome.
How many
Mick
more
Foley.
microphones we got up here?
Welcome back. Let's hear it, Spartanburg.
Thank you.
How was your tour of the United Kingdom, sir?
One of the worst weeks of my entire
Is that right? I know. I was there.
Entire wrestling career. Yeah, it was. You know what it was? It was when I was told you're going to be doing a week in the UK. I didn't realize it was for 5 different promoters. So it made no logistical sense. So we went from London to Coventry, which is a few hours, up to the north of England, down to Wales, over to London, up to Scotland, back down to London. It was a lot of work, and it really was not an enjoyable trip, and the weather was miserable too.
Well, thank goodness the Sandman.
Don't sugarcoat it. Tell us what you really think.
And I'll tell you what, last night may have been a low point in my career because I have good reason to believe that the check the guy wrote me from Scotland is not going to clear.
So when I showed up last
that's
night,
not very funny, is it?
you know, you do these things, and I don't know how many of you know this is my last independent show for quite a while. It's true.
It is. He is back with the WWE.
Now, wait a minute. Look at it this way. He's taking a bunch of Vince McMahon's money.
Hey. There is a positive end.
Well, we showed up at this building, and you know, these things are hit or miss. And thank goodness that this show is here. And in the back of my mind, I was, all right, at least I'm ending up with Tony Hunter's show right here in Spartanburg, South Carolina, right?
Yeah. Cheap pop. He's got a cheap pop at every time.
It was clear when I got there that the building was like a great mystery. It looked like an abandoned warehouse. When I came in, there was not going to be a very good crowd. And so with the Scottish memory on my mind, I realized that there was a pretty good chance I wasn't going to get paid. So I actually said, look, I need to be paid. And he goes, well, I didn't know you'd want your money now. And I said, were you counting on the house? And he said, yeah. I said, I don't think there's going to be much of a house. And he said, well, listen, the only way I get money is to go borrow it from my grandfather. And I said, then I think you better pay your grandfather a visit. So that was one of the low moments of my life, making a guy go visit his grandmother to come back with money for me. So we're going to end it on a high note tonight. There's going to be a great show. I'm glad to be here. Tribute to Starrcade, although I was never actually on a Starrcade, I'm glad to be paying tribute to it. And I think I'm in the ring with the Funker, if that's, as the referee. Is that not correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Is this still working? Hello.
Which should be a lot of fun, but I'll be quite honest with you. The last time that Terry, I refereed a match that Terry was in, he scared the crap out of me. And I don't know if he's going to be that wild tonight. And, we talk about the real issue. And I know I said to the ring announcer that night when Terry was spitting at her and saying, you bitch, that I said, look, I don't know if he's kidding or not, but you better get out of the ring just to play it safe. And then he knocked out Joey Styles, and I don't think he knew if he was kidding or not either.
All right, we have a question for Mick Foley.
Oh,
or for anyone here.
Just make something up real quick, okay?
Right, well, since Mick is here, it works out good. It's for Terry also. Some of your favorite memories or matches about working in Japan and maybe the differences between working in Japan and working in here in the States.
Funker?
Is this for me? Okay. What's the difference between Japan working and here, right? At this point in time, not that much. It's as I've noticed that the physical part. Who are you talking? I'm
Boogie Man over there.
I'm trying to go ahead.
I got the Barbarian
and
over
have
there.
A conversation.
Boogie
and you're
Man.
distracting from
Dr.
me
Tom
constantly.
Pritchard, Brad Armstrong.
Well, I know, but you're driving me nuts, Foley.
These are the guys who made me, man.
You're driving me nuts. You're trying to do that on. You're
And he
doing
just
that on
got here.
purpose. You're distracting my mind. All right. Now, what was the question? What was it about? What
The
now?
difference between
Japan
working
and
in Japan.
The difference between what?
Working
the
in
Boogie
Japan
Woogie
and
Man
the
and who?
States.
Not the Boogie Woogie Man, Japan.
Oh, Japan.
Japan, yes.
Oh, not the Boogie Woogie Man. Nothing to do with it.
Nothing.
Okay, Japan. All right,
Now you
I got it. I got it. Just the difference between working here and Japan nowadays isn't that much. It really isn't. You can find a style that's Japanese style, whatever style you might be over here. It's changed a lot over there. Whatever style you might be here, they've got that style in Japan. And the Japanese boys the same way back here in the States. It's
I'd say
really
the-
intermingled.
The one big difference, though, is I've never heard an American crowd go, "Ooh." It's a big difference.
That is a big difference.
What's your opinion of WWE now going over there? They sell out in a couple of hours each time they go over there. Is that going to change the whole face of wrestling in Japan? You
No, I don't think so, because it's a different audience. When Shane went over there and he went out and did the ring introduction, they had Wally Yamaguchi translated to Japanese, and the fans started booing because they were there to see an American product. And it's almost like when I went over there to see Hustle. Hustle was the wrestling promotion for fans who don't like wrestling. They were there to see an entertainment spectacle. So I think it's kind of the same thing. I don't think it's cutting into the Japanese fans. I just think it's people who caught on and like what it is that WWE does.
I mean, is it going to change the basic Japanese fan? Because like ECW changed a lot of the makeup of the fan here in the United States, is it going to change that in Japan?
I really don't believe that, and I do believe one other thing too is I think that the shoot fighting has made a much greater indentation into the business of professional wrestling over there than it has here.
Which is why, if you notice, at the tail end of my career when I was Mankind, I started incorporating a lot more shoot fighting into my matches.
I'd say you're pretty well there too, Cactus.
The shoot fighting legend, correct?
The shoot sock came out, yeah.
Shoot go. Next question, please.
Yeah, this is for any of you. What are your thoughts on Jim Ross, whether it be current treatment by WWE or just in general?
Ooh, sore subject.
Okay, I'm the guy that works for them, right? Yeah. Okay.
Would you like me to
Courtney,
take
why don't
this
you
one?
take that one?
I suggest you keep your mouth shut.
No, listen,
Jack.
I've said this before. I didn't like it then. I don't like it now. I think it could have been handled a different way. I thought that it was part of a story that would have brought JR back. I think eventually they'll make it part of the story, but I think it hurt JR's feelings to be portrayed that way. And for that reason alone, I didn't like it. And I guess because it didn't actually do any business, that's another reason not to like it.
Well, that's the thing. It didn't sell any tickets, didn't increase any ratings. As a matter of fact, it probably did the opposite from pissing people off. And I'm not going to knock anybody. I could go and eviscerate people and cut them to death with rusty fishing knives. I'm not going to. The point is, it's simply illogical when you have the guy who is better at what he does, wrestling announcing, than anybody else currently in the business, and you've got the opportunity to have that person on your flagship program, and you not only can him unceremoniously, but also humiliate him on the way out. I don't understand it. Doesn't make any sense. Certainly in a decision I would make, and I can't imagine that anybody could come up with a really good reason why it happened, especially when he had no qualified replacement, except that was an idea they had, and they were going to do it one way or the other. I think it's ridiculous. I think it's the shits.
Did anyone here think it was funny at all? Did they get that point across at all? No? Okay.
Yeah, was anybody amused by the humor? What? Ribbon!
All right.
Thank you, Gabby Johnson, for those stirring words of frontier justice. Some Blazing Saddles fans in the audience, I see.
Jeff, next question, please.
Yeah, this is for anybody who worked with or worked for Great Muta over in Japan or for WCW.
What's your question?
Thoughts on working with Great Muta or for him overseas?
Great Muta.
I was, Terry, you probably knew him better than I did. My only personal Muta story is that I was part of Devastation Incorporated with him when he was the Black Ninja. And he didn't speak much English, but both of us used to get a ride from Skandor Akbar and Branko Lubitsch. So my only really personal interaction is that once in a while, Muta would say, ninja pee-pee, which meant he had to go to the bathroom.
Ninja pee-pee?
And ninja pee-pee. And then, although I did this more with Kamala too, I would pretend to fall asleep and lean on his shoulder just to see how long it would take before they started. I was going to say whacking me off, but I didn't want to give anyone the wrong idea here.
I'd like to say this about Muta, and a lot of people, you should know this about him. The boy was a terrific, terrific amateur wrestler in Japan. A lot of people don't know that. And a very good shooter. And a lot of people aren't aware of that, and they should be aware of it. Great athlete, great in-ring performer. And I think that if he would have been back there whenever we had the Flair issue and Muta was there, I think that if they would have brought Muta in there and give him an opportunity as a babyface, I think that he would have been phenomenal. But I think Jim Cornette's the one that cut that off.
Is that right?
No, you didn't, Jim. I know. I'm being silly.
I
think
know
he's a
who
great
did, but I'm not
babyface.
going to utter that name here now, but we'll talk later. But I agree with you. He actually could have had a Muta comic book. He would have been a tremendous sensation for the kids. When he first hit big with WCW, a lot of the kids liked him anyway, and he was flashy, he was colorful, He was a great performer, and it could have happened, but it didn't happen, and that's another one of WCW's many losses.
Can I just point out that we did a show, not the last match in the ring, but a very rare match where I got a chance to team up with the Funks against the Midnight Express, and I made a couple of allegations here, and I just want to claim that it is true that for many years, Dennis Condrey owed me $20.
Did he ever pay you back?
He did pay me back, and it is true that Stan Lane warped my mind when I used to listen to him next door with a glass against the wall, and things were taking place in there that...
Why were you listening to...
because I had to live vicariously through other people.
There was no noise going on in his room, so he had to put the glass up to the wall.
Next question, please.
Like anybody's thoughts on the Road Warriors on the panel?
Road Warriors. Thoughts on the Road Warriors. Working with them, personal stories. Hawk and Animal.
I can remember when they first went to Japan and we got them to go over there. They were a classic team. They really were. As we know, that Ole Anderson developed them, came up with the idea for them, and that's where the Road Warriors began. And I always loved the one guy, and he would always imitate me all the time, and drive me nuts. He'd do Terry Funk. Every time that I'd see him, he'd come through the door was Hawk. I don't know how he does Terry Funk.
That's not a good Terry Funk imitation.
I thought that was a great.
Did you?
That was a terrible Terry Funk imitation. You bastard.
Faith, honey, you got your nerve.
I would the Road Warriors. I mean, we had a lot of great matches with them, got a chance to make a lot of money. They were, without a doubt, the most over tag team in the business at that point in time. It was just phenomenal. The Road Warrior pop, right? And I've told a story a couple places, so you may have heard it, so I'll make it quick. But Hawk was a great guy. But when we used to travel on Crockett's plane, Jim Crockett Promotions had this old I don't like flying anyway, had this old converted former commuter jet, whatever, that they would take us on these trips on. And I was sitting there shaking like a dog shitting peach seeds the whole time I was in this thing. And I always made a deal with Hawk. I would sit next to him. If I couldn't be on a plane with Flair, because how many people you know been in 2 plane crashes, then I would sit next to Hawk. And I told Hawk, I said, Mike, if something happens, knock me out. Hit me as hard as you can. I said, now make sure something bad is going on. But he said, okay, I'll take care of it. You'll never feel a thing. So with Hawk around, I was safe.
Hawk used to never really like to eat a short time before his matches. I remember one time a friend of mine and I took him out for Chinese food about 3 hours before a match in Charlotte, North Carolina, and he was getting in the ring and he said he didn't feel too great. He calls me over as I'm taking pictures. And after I take my picture, I snapped a picture and he says, oh, look at this. And he just threw up right on the camera. It was wonderful. All right, next.
I got one other thing to say.
Yes.
He called me the day he died.
Say that again. I didn't hear you. I'm sorry.
He called me the day he died.
Tell us about it.
Well, he called up and he really it didn't sound like Hawk even. And that's as far as I'd like to go about it. Is just about that. But he called me on the day he died. Al Hayes called me on the day he died. So, and that's the truth. So, Mick, I don't think you should be calling me anytime.
I will never. I think that's the lesson to be learned there.
I hope you have an unlisted number.
It's a true story. Both of them did.
Next question, please.
I called Al Hayes. I'm sorry. I called him the day he died.
Lord, let me just give my input on the Warriors.
Don't call me either, Terry, please.
I'll leave you alone, too.
So I don't want people to think I'm not
Dennis, you're in trouble, though. I got your phone number. I changed it.
I want to give input so people don't think, well, he didn't make what I want to talk about him. I just remember when I came into WCW in '89 and I was on the bottom of the totem pole and they were on the top, that both guys were genuinely nice guys and treated the underneath talent well. And I mean, that's kind of a lesson that I've tried to take on and treat the younger guys well as well. So, my memories of them, since I only worked one match, I think, with the Warriors are are just personal of them being good guys and not projecting themselves as if they were any better than the rest of us.
And in a lot of ways, they changed the face of tag team wrestling as well. They sure did.
My question is for Mick Foley. You are going back to the WWE, which I think is great. And yeah,
hold it down.
Don't become a mob here, please.
I was wondering, are we ever going to see the dude again?
Listen, I don't want to say I rigged the balloting at the Taboo Tuesday, but I made sure the Dude Love interview wasn't all that good. You know, in case you didn't notice, I threw a little extra into the Mankind, a little slacked off a little on the Dude, and I don't know if this is cheating, but the truth is when I retired, I realized, okay, maybe there's really no such thing as a real pro wrestling retirement, right, Terry? But I did feel with some degree of certainty that I would never be Dude Love again. So when I started looking for my dude stuff, I then remembered, wow, I gave all that dude stuff away, you know, because in wrestling, you meet a lot of kids who've been through some tough times, and like a pair of Dude Love boots is really cool for them, whereas a pair of Dude Love boots in my closet isn't helping me at all. So I'd given all my dude stuff away, and I called up and I said, I don't want to know who's going to win, but does the dude have a chance? And they kind of laughed and said, no, don't worry, you're not going to be Dude Love.
Well,
so.
you should have called Handsome Jimmy. You stole the whole gimmick from him to begin with. Come on.
Well, yeah, because you were the one telling me how to be Dude Love, and you said just copy Handsome Jimmy.
Hey, here's the thing. They want to make him Dude Love, and it was his gimmick that he come up with when he was a teenager with his friends jumping off the roof of the house. So he comes up to me, he says, how should I be Dude Love? I said, what are you asking me for? He said, I've never actually really done it. It was just a name. He wasn't a person. I said, copy the Valiant Brothers.
Oh, you know, somebody told me that they were putting. I mean, this is just so silly that but I think it's true. Somebody told me that they're putting out a doll of me and you. I think you're Dude Love, and I think that I'm Chainsaw Charlie.
Well,
how could they possibly think that would sell any dolls? I don't know.
How did you let
Chainsaw Charlie suck?
Any Chainsaw Charlie fans out here?
No.
So you sold a bunch of them already. Look at that.
The pantyhose was inspired. Gene.
I know, and they were mullahs. They really were.
Next question, right over here on the aisle.
This is really more of like a comment, but I want to say that I've been listening to what you guys have been talking about. And the one thing that I think that it's all going to come back to, the one simple word, and I think everybody here will agree, it's respect. Is you guys have respect for one another. You have respect for the fans. You talk about how the wrestlers took care of the underneath card. And the best way to sum it all up, and I think Jim Cornette already done that with Smoky Mountain, was wrestling the way it used to be, wrestling the way we like it. I think everybody will agree.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
hey, profitable wrestling would have been nice to throw in there also, but
you know, everybody here watches Monday Night Raw only simply because there's no other alternative. And me and my brother, we drove all the way from Hillsville, Virginia to come down here because this is what we love. We grew up on it. My very first memory of professional wrestling, we was at my grandmother's house, and I actually got to watch Don Morocco reverse the figure four on Jack Briscoe, which at the time was just unheard of. You know, that's what it was all about. It didn't matter. It's like Jim Cornette said, it didn't matter. You didn't have to put a great big label on it. Here's two guys, they're going to fight, and we was there. That's all it took. That's all you had to know. And I can speak for probably most of the people in here, probably the only good thing that I can say that Dusty Rhodes ever done in his entire career was having Greensboro Coliseum $3 upper balcony seats. That was about it. That's the best thing that I think he's ever done for the business.
Hey, Dust. How you doing, Dream?
This man wanted to talk to you. How much did your seat cost tonight, sir? Never mind.
You know, you were well on the way to a really profound statement that was going to get a hell of a hand, and all of a sudden you just put your foot straight down your throat.
I don't want to interrupt you, man, but hey, I don't want to interrupt you, but man, you're so full of it. I can't believe that. That never was $3 in the balcony. Never. No, that might have been in the era of Bronco Lubitsch and Johnny Weaver. But when my boys were playing ball, it was sold out and it was high dollar. They were making money. We were making money. Yeah. And the best thing I ever done besides coming over and kicking your ass right now is that for 3 times I held the world heavyweight title. That means more than any title does right now. And you haven't. So go pay $3 somewhere else. You and your brother drive back to Virginia, where the hell you come from.
We've lost control of this, ladies and gentlemen.
No, actually, Jim Cornette.
And you owe him $2.
Hey.
There were $5
Hey.
the seats.
No,
How'd you get in for $3?
$3. We were there. Hey, simple fact of the matter remains, Jim Cornette already come up with the answer to that. If brains was gasoline, you wouldn't have enough to fuel a Flea's motorcycle around a raindrop.
Oh. Sir, would you stand up a minute? Dadgum, did your mama ever date Arn Anderson?
Thank you for part of those comments.
Anybody else with some cheap seat stories? Next question, please.
I told the other guys my favorite angles with them over the years, and since you're here, Mick, I wanted to tell you yours, and I wanted to see what your thoughts were. My favorite angle with you is with The Rock. When y'all did like a 30-minute montage.
The Rock and Sock connection you're talking about.
Thank you.
The birthday and everything like that, and I wanted to see what your comments were on that and whose idea it was.
Yeah, I love doing that stuff. This is probably not the answer people want to hear, but I believe that was Vince Russo's idea, the birthday party. But
sooner or later, even a blind squirrel will find a nut.
But I think they wanted to go about 15 minutes, and I think we went 34 minutes. And we got chewed out pretty good by Vince when we got back. You know, that's kind of a valuable commodity, national television time. And it wasn't until the next day that The Rock tapped me on the shoulder. He said, "Did you hear what it did?" You know, when he said what it did, always meant ratings. And I thought the way he was looking, like it was astronomically low. And he said, 8.4. I said, 8.4? Like, there weren't even enough wrestling viewers so that even if every single person watching WCW had turned over, it still wouldn't have amounted to an 8.4. So that it meant people had to actually have been calling their friends who didn't watch wrestling and saying, "You got to turn this on." So once we went up to Vince with the answer, he was like cowering underneath the table, and he finally said, "You guys can do whatever you want for as long as you want from now on." So yeah, I love doing that stuff with The Rock, and it's funny how different people remember different things because SoCal Val, who will be out here and I think doing our ring announcing tonight, said, "You know what? I really liked what you did." And I said, "What?" And she said, "That time when you were the commissioner and you had the dog in the dryer, which was a stuffed animal." And so you never know what you're going to do that's going to affect people in some way. And hopefully, if you throw enough stuff at the wall, some of it sticks, right? So,
that's what you got to do. You got to keep on throwing it, too.
A Rock and Sock connection.
And then if
was
all else fails, you can cut the cheap seats down to $3. That'll bring them in.
Next question. Where are we? Up there.
My question is for Mick. The match you had with The Rock, the I Quit match, that was pretty brutal. And I imagine you probably had a concussion and maybe some stitches. And I'd just like to know exactly how long it took you to get over that.
Yeah, and that was documented in Beyond the Mat, what you saw. What you didn't see was my wife's driving on the way home. You know, we were in L.A., and her driving was so bad that I said, "Look, I don't care how hurt I am. I can do better than this." So she pulled over. I actually drove them to the airport. I don't know if I had a concussion or not. I know my head was really hurting, and I know that, 2 days later when we did that empty arena match, which was inspired by, which is a story in and of itself. Can I tell that story? Is that okay?
Go ahead.
Okay. But I showed up, and they specifically didn't want to see a drop of blood on USA. And so I looked like Boris Karloff in the Mummy. I was so wrapped up. But we had this empty arena match, which was my idea. And so I told the office to send a tape of Terry's match with Lawler to The Rock so he could look at it and get some ideas. And The Rock comes up to me at the next TV and goes, Mick, can I talk to you? I said, sure. And he said, that match with Lawler and Funk? I said, yeah. He goes, it's kind of the shits. And I said, no, that's a classic. He said, I'm telling you, I just watched it. So I went home, watched it myself, gave Terry a call, and I said, what the hell? I said, everyone remembers this thing as being so great. He goes, of course, it was a piece of shit, Cactus. But again, that's something that was, and sorry about the language, kids, but that's the way he talks. You got a foul mouth. That's what I'm talking about. You know, you make memories, and maybe they don't hold up to time, but at the time, you know, as you're doing it, if it's affecting people, if it's drawing money, if it's entertaining them, then obviously it was worth doing.
In 1981, it was the best empty arena match ever. What sticks in people's minds is not always the best. It really isn't. And, you know, that's kind of like that. There's so many things through the years that I've done. You know, as I was Dr. Knows It All, you know, and the people in San Antonio remember that, you know, as that was really stupid, you know, and Chainsaw Charlie. That sticks in people's mind, you know, and I did that other deal up there. That was the same way. You know, the empty arena match. That sticks in people's mind, you know, and it probably when I had, ma'am, would you please wake up out there?
We got another sleeper
I saw you
here?
going to sleep out there. Now get your eyes open.
Hey, where's
Just
Jody
here she is,
Hamilton
going to
over
sleep.
there? Isn't sleeping?
Right up there. It couldn't have been me putting her to sleep. Who's sleeping?
Who's sleeping? Huh? Jim Cornette, did you shoot the photos of that empty arena match? Was it you who did those?
No, I
didn't, because Lawler forgot to call me.
Okay.
So he called a friend of his that was in Memphis.
Jim Cornette used to be one of our top photographers back when I was with Pro Wrestling Illustrated.
What do you mean one of?
Well, we had a few photographers.
Not top ones.
Well, not top. They were
But
pretty
can I
good.
point out, Corny, when I walked out there and saw an absolutely empty arena, it kind of reminded me of being back in Memphis.
About 8 o'clock on Monday night, right?
We got
When I was there, not when the guys drawing the money were there.
Next question, please. Yes. Oh, very enthusiastic hand raise here. Oh, what? Jeff's got one up there, and you're next. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is for Terry. He was just talking a minute ago about things sticking in people's mind. I remember when you put the plastic bag over Ric Flair's head. There were people talking about that at work for about 2 weeks. And I was wondering what kind of flack you caught over that.
Well, you could do that today in this day and age. I don't think anybody would say a word about it. But at that time, I mean, it was just something that it created havoc all the way through the chain of command in WCW television. It did.
As a matter of fact, who here has watched TBS in the last 6 months or so? Right? You got cable, you watch TV. Okay. They had an epileptic seizure over the plastic bag thing and blah, blah, blah. Oh, my God, they're going to kill children all across America because they've seen this on television. And I've found memos that I got when I was part of the booking committee. You could not have any type of profanity. You couldn't see a drop of blood. This is TBS. We're family programming. No profanity, no blood, no plastic bags over people's heads. For heaven's sake, if it gets too graphic or brutal, they'll back the camera up into the parking lot so nobody can see the guy getting his brains beat out specifically to get an angle over. No, we're going to shoot that from out in the parking lot. No rough stuff, no bad language, no blood, no violence, no nothing. No meat of the matter, right? I'm watching TBS a couple of weeks ago. This guy drops his pants. I'm seeing his bare ass hanging out. They're saying words that I didn't even know you could say on basic cable, much less on TBS. They're doing everything now. 15 years ago, it was sanitized, homogenized. You couldn't do a thing, say a thing, whatever. And now, holy mackerel, it's like everybody on the network has Tourette's syndrome. So, they continue to be schizophrenic in what they decide or they don't decide. They never could stick to one plan.
If you remember, I vividly remember you having to call a foreign object an international object. And
well, no, Turner believed that this word foreign only promotes lack of understanding amongst the different races and creeds and colors around the world. So he wouldn't let anybody use the word foreign. How are we supposed to call a foreign object? So we came up with international object.
We almost got our press privileges taken away at the magazine for running that photo on the cover with the plastic bag. They called us and they were beside themselves. Get it off the newsstands.
Yeah, well, watch TBS right now. They're doing everything except showing the bus wreck with all those paraplegic nuns in it.
You got this thing for paraplegic nuns today.
Well, I like paraplegic
okay,
nuns.
I'm just checking.
They can't run away.
Too much information. Next.
Hey, look at me. I got to have an advantage, for heaven's sake. I couldn't get a date on a tombstone.
My question's for Mick, and first off, you are God, but I want to ask, out of all your years and all your matches, what, in your opinion, was your pinnacle?
Man, well, thank you. You know, you got to add that extra O in there. Foley he's only good, right? Good. You know what? I have had a lot of things I really liked, but I was really happy with that Backlash match with Randy Orton because I'd come back after 4 years and thought that the WrestleMania match, was a little bit lacking. My effort wasn't what it should have been, so I went back to the drawing board. I actually started watching the old matches I did with guys like Terry and went back and thought I had something to prove. So I think on some subliminal level, that's why I went out and sucked so bad against Carlito. So now, once again, I have something to prove next time I get in the ring. But
Okay.
that was probably my favorite.
What, for many of you, what are your favorite Mick Foley wrestling moments? Terry, you got one?
Favorite wrestling moments, I think that back again to whenever we was over there at Kawasaki Stadium and we were wrestling up there in the death match finals and the bomb that was supposed to explode never went off. That was a pretty wild deal, and the people were quite upset, but we lived through it, and it was a pretty good night. That's a good memory with him. I have a lot of good memories with Mick. Some of them not so good. One of the not so good ones was whenever the Hell in a Cell took place. And Mick took the bump through the cage and was in the middle of the ring, and I looked at him and his eyes were glassed over, and I thought, this was a good memory though, because I thought, damn, he may never get up, much less tonight. I mean, never. I mean, he dropped out of that, through that cage and all the way through to that mat. And he was in bad shape, and I walked over there to the referee, and I told the referee, I said, Mick's not ever going to get by. He said, he's not getting up. And I turned around to the Undertaker, and I said, he's not coming back. And I turned back around to look at the referee or look at Mick, and there was Mick up standing and facing me right there, and ready to go. I think that definitely took a pretty tough son of a gun, to go ahead and do that. And why he did it is he wanted to complete it for himself, for his peers. He wanted to complete that match, and for the fans.
Wait, but I got my favorite Mick Foley moment, and let's see if you call it. Of all the incredible, outrageous, death-defying bumps that Mick Foley has taken in his career, which one was the most important?
The one you called, right?
The nasty plunge.
Jack is dead.
Yeah,
I was just
the nasty
sorry.
plunge, and he's been doing this in Memphis, like you said, in an empty Coliseum. Only they were charging for tickets more than $3, as a matter of fact. But the Clash of Champions, he wrestles Mil Mascaras and takes the nasty plunge off the apron of the ring, and everybody thought he was dead, and he gets back up, and of course Mascaras hits a flying body press, blah, blah, blah. To this day, I don't know that if you hadn't made that impression with that, you would have ever got the chance to take the other ones that you already could have done. But national television, everybody remembered it, and they were like, my God, that was different. And it wasn't. Now remember this, for any aspiring wrestlers out there, it wasn't because he fell off of something and cracked his head and everybody thought he was dead. It was because that got their attention, and then they could see what else he had to offer. And so many guys now are risking their life and limb and property in pursuit of happiness, to take these big bumps. Folks, speaking to you somewhere out there, aspiring wrestlers, look in the mirror. If you can't do his promo, if you don't have that mind, and if you don't have the other things that he's got to go along with the bumps, don't take the bumps because it doesn't make any difference. But that was his way of getting attention and overcoming what Arn Anderson has termed in his own right average athletic ability and an average, maybe not, body. But in the end, he proved that he had the talent. He just had to really beat you over the head to get your attention to make you realize it. And so Mick Foley, to me and to anybody who studied it, is not just about bumps. He has the talent. He just had to twist your arm to make you pay attention to him, and he did a real good job of that.
I'd just like to say that I really enjoyed Mick as Brother Love. I really enjoyed Brother Love.
Dude Love.
Dennis, I love you.
We have time for one more quick question. One more question.
My question is you to Mick. My hat goes off to you and Terry. And I want to know what you think of Abyss from TNA and the fact of him using thumbtacks.
Oh, yeah. And I guess his mask looks a little bit like, you know what?
It's an homage.
He's a really nice guy and very talented wrestler. And as a matter of fact, if I had gone to TNA, my first match probably would have been with him. Dream's still looking. Dream pulled a nice rib on me in Mulberry, North Carolina, where he had the main event match, and Dream was in charge of TNA at the time. And don't get high. Can I do a Dream imitation of you? Is that all right? And I said, and I meant this. I said, it's just great. Thank you guys, for letting me, pretty much setting the table so the guys who followed could, kind of eat off the table that all these guys set. And then I handed that, and I thought it was a pretty emotional interview, and I give the mic to Dusty, and Dusty goes, never mind that. I want to know if you're going to be in Orlando to take on Abyss at the pay-per-view. And I went, I didn't have an answer to that. I said, Dream, tell Vince you're kidding. He said, I'll see you in Orlando. And sure enough, apparently computers around the country were firing up right away, and I got messages, are you going to TNA? So I think he's a great guy and a great worker. And, it's like when Midian asked me if he could start using the elbow off the ring apron, and I said, please, just take it. Take it.
Better him than you.
Yeah, I mean, if someone wants, as long as they don't use it too often, that's my only complaint, is that he's making it like a monthly thing. Anyone can take whatever they want from me because pretty much, I called Terry one time in 1990 and asked him if I could steal a promo from him. And he said, Cactus, you can have anything of mine you like. So if Terry was nice enough to give that to me, then certainly guys can feel free to borrow from my 3-move repertoire. So have it.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's all rise and individually thank Terry Funk. Terry. Mick Foley. Loverboy Dennis Condrey. James E. Cornett.